time for Sports and Courts, legal issues in the sports world with Brett Hastings from the Hastings Injury Law Firm. Hit back with Hastings.
Let's talk about some legal issues in the world of sports on our Coyle and Sons Fencing Wednesday. Frangie, Carline, LaSelva with you. Brett Hastings is here. All right. How you doing? You good?
Doing good. Dodging lightning bolts and rain.
And Hayes Carline was in his ar for 7 hours just to try and stay out of it. So he knows all about it.
I'm scarred.
So I wanted to do that. You and I talked earlier today, Brett. I wanted to do this today. It's hard to know less about betting than me. I'm just not my thing. But I do know that it's hard to keep up with what's legal, not legal. I mean, anybody can place bets now, right? You can pick up your phone and you can place a bet, right? I mean, that wasn't the case not long ago, right?
Realistically, anybody can do it.
Yeah,
okay?
yeah.
Legally, you're supposed to be 21 in the state of Florida.
Okay.
Bad news for the Hastings boys. And I thought it was 18 until I was looking at some of the stuff for today.
So legally, you should be 21 to place a bet on your phone.
But here's how you got to analyze it. JJ was spot on as we were saying it. So this is a Florida issue. Florida's different from everybody else.
Right.
In Florida, the ability to bet on sports, okay? And we'll talk a little bit about the difference between sports betting and gambling because there's a slight difference, right?
Okay.
But to bet on sports in the state of Florida, there's an exclusive place to bet, and that's with the Seminole Tribe of Florida. So you can go and physically put a bet in place with their 6 properties or on their app, the Hard Rock Bet app, okay? And there has been a legal challenge, one that was dismissed. There's a new lawsuit that they say is going to be filed and say that, that this exclusivity is not right. And so from now till 2051, if you want to, quote, legally bet in the state of Florida, you're supposed to do it with the Seminole Tribe, okay?
I didn't know that.
Right. So you got FanDuel, you have DraftKings, you have some of these others, okay? And it comes down to geolocation, all right? And so what happens is if, you're got your phone on and you don't have any other way to change where your location is, and there are ways to do that, these other sites should not let you bet. They're not allowed to be doing it here. Now, my understanding is that there's a thing called a VPN.
Yeah.
You buy a small app. It says you're in Ohio, Atlanta, anywhere else, and then you can go bet. And so is Hard Rock Bet the only way that people are betting in the state of Florida? No. Is that technically illegal to bet with these other ones? Yes. Sort of one of the gray areas, and where we talk about sports gambling and sports betting. When we talk about sports betting, we're talking about laying money down, points, a team, what have you, okay? There have been some arguments in the law where, what are fantasy sports, okay? It takes some requisite level of skill. Mike Dempsey and these guys, I mean, they break things down. It's, I do play fantasy football, but every time I listen to those guys, I'm like, wow, they're at a higher level. But they'd say that that's not purely chance, okay? Which that's what they say sports betting is, because they'd say you'd come in and go do that.
So that's skill. So, okay, all right.
Right. So there's a caveat for that in the law. There are some, quote, daily fantasy things that are out there, and they're sort of in an ambiguous place in between. But, if you want to take Florida State and lay the points, that straight sports betting, you want to do that in the state of Florida, you either need to go to one of those 6 Hard Rock casinos or Seminole Tribe owned properties in person, or use their specific Hard Rock Bet app.
Did you know? I didn't know. Did you realize that?
I did not, and I would assume, is there any other state that has that unique of a setup?
Well, I don't know, because there's 50 different states that are out there. I would imagine somebody does. I would imagine maybe Oklahoma or some other place.
So if a guy says, hey, I pulled up my phone and I made a few bets, he's doing it illegally if he lives in the state of Florida.
No. He could do it with the Hard Rock app.
Oh, I got you. My bad.
Yeah.
As long as I see. So you don't have to. You don't have to go.
Hard Rock has a monopoly in the state of Florida on gambling on sports.
Okay,
right.
So long as you pull your phone out and do it on the Hard Rock app, you're okay.
Correct.
Okay, I got you. So okay.
Now, do I think there are just literally tens of thousands of other people that are using?
Yeah.
Because you said, hey, what everybody does in college.
Yeah.
As a father of 2 19-year-olds and good buddies with all of their friends, it's like parlay town.
I'm
Everybody
telling-
does that. There are several apps that do that. Those are not specifically authorized in the state of Florida.
And offshore books as well.
Correct.
So, like, there's plenty of books that are, like, out of Costa Rica or whatever that people gamble on.
100%. And then it just comes down to
How did you get the money?
geolocation.
Yeah.
And an international group may not mandate that, right, to have to be in compliance with us here because we don't have compliance over there. And so that would be you could effectuate it that way.
But is it like the way what I'm hearing here? Because I know we all know everyone grabs their phone and bets, and the reality is, to your point about college students, a lot of my buddies who have kids in college, that's all they bet on UFC, they bet on everything. So, but it almost sounds like to me that okay, if the speed limit is 65 and you're driving 68, you're breaking the law too. But
Right.
nobody cares.
Correct.
Okay, is this like that?
I think it's what is the biggest thing to cause somebody want to go out and enforce these laws? What do you think that is? When that money flows
Tax
out of the
revenue.
state and the state doesn't get some of the money, right?
Okay.
It's typically when people are skirting, taxes or other parts to go in to get revenue,
So
right? And so I haven't looked at the specifics of this Seminole Tribe deal, but it's good for them, and I'm sure in some other respects it's good for the state of Florida. Really, the idea that comes up from that are that Indian reservations have their own sovereignty, right? And so they can have different rules. I think you could go down there and get smoke marijuana at the casino, and you're not having to fall under the other states' laws and regulations that you would have once you walk across the street in Tampa or in Fort Lauderdale. So if anything's ever going to go drive this in the future, will be if they're just seeing a lot of this money go away, and the states not find a way to tax it. So I think there's very little risk that they're going to go after Hayes Carline or Frank Frangie or Rick Ballou, who probably knows as much about this as anybody, and he's pretty knowledgeable, when he's on the air. But it's true. They're not going to target individuals. I could see if something comes out of it legally going after the organizations because they feel like, hey, we're not getting our cut.
I mean, if you're being really specific, I just said driving 68 and 65 is against the law, technically. Well, I mean, a $5 Nassau on a golf course is technically against the law, right?
Correct.
Who plays golf on Saturday night? They're not betting, but technically, it's a dollar office pool is
right.
Again, that's where I'm going with this. It seems like to me this is almost an extension of that. It's
100%.
It's against the law, but wink, wink, it's really not.
Do you think that monopoly will hold, like legally? Do you think it's got a strong argument to hold?
In the state of Florida, yes.
It'll keep sports books from popping up, right?
Correct.
That's what that
Correct.
does. And I can tell you, I do too, by the way.
Yeah.
I think the Seminole Indian have
Because
the
lobby is just so strong.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
And that's really the answer. So.
And we're still not. It'll be interesting to see how aggressive does the Seminole Indian tribe go to say, what else could we do to try to enforce, because it comes down to this geolocation, right? Like
I didn't know that part.
Right. You buy something on your app or you buy an app, the app makes it appear to your phone that you're from another state. Then you could go DraftKings, FanDuel, every parlay, all of those other things,
Would that apply to like a criminal? Like can like serial killers get something on their phone that lies about where they are?
I don't even know. When I was a prosecutor 20 years ago, it was one of the first times that cell phones, started to become a part in. And what was interesting was they were able to like triangulate from the towers and know the location of the phone. And this wasn't back when you had your GPS on or whatever, but, it was through that evidence that they were able, to solve a murder or whatever. I know that you can't really delete anything on these phones when I have dealt with some of the forensic experts in some of our cases. So all of the information stays on there. I think these are just quick checks, to be able to go do it. I think
It wouldn't be anything that a really massive criminal could take advantage of.
I guess
this is basically just circumventing something
but
kind
are
of
the-
minor.
Exactly.
Are the VPNs illegal? Using the VPN?
illegal in theory, yes.
So
I'm sure the law is predicated on, if you're in the state of Florida, being in the state of Florida is defined as being physically present in any action to obscure that.
So let me throw out a hypothetical. Can I throw out a hypothetical?
I just threw out serial killers, so absolutely.
Yeah, it won't be as sexy as that. But let's say, hypothetically, Brett, you're I don't know, a NFL play-by-play guy. Okay, just hypothetically. And let's say you're, I don't know, pick a place, London. And let's say you're an NFL play-by-play guy in London. And let's say you're, I don't know, a Gator fan. And let's say hypothetically Florida's playing Kentucky. And let's say hypothetically you can't get it on your iPad because you can't download this game if you're in a different country, yet you find a VPN that makes it look like you're in America, and then you watch all 4 quarters. Hypothetically, if you did that, did you break the law?
I'm calling Scotland Yard right now.
Hypothetically, of course, Hayes.
Yeah. Hypothetically, you probably broke it, something over there. Or what you broke is some existing contract between parties, right?
Okay. Like I've always said, Hayes, I do live life on the edge.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
it doesn't get much edgier than that. Okay. Okay.
Well, what you do is I just get 19-year-old boys, and when you're in Puerto Rico for the holidays and it's the national championship Final Four football games, you just walk in the other room and say, figure it out. And every time I come back, and it's streaming. So
I watched Florida, Kentucky, and I had to use a VPN, and I had no idea what a VPN was. So I Googled it and then used a VPN and watched the whole game. We lost, by the way, so I probably shouldn't have. So it never dawned on me that you're against the law. I know you're not supposed to do it, but I didn't know you were like breaking the law to do it. So,
nobody's going to prosecute you on that. Nothing's going to come out. Those end up being higher levels because if somebody's paid for a licensing agreement or to be able to have the broadcast rights in a certain area, they're going to be the ones that are going to go after the VPN manufacturers or somebody else who are helping to facilitate to undermine, their agreements. So, I'm not saying go fire up your VPNs, but I'm saying you could sleep good at night to know that nobody's going to come get you.
You're very impressed. I knew how to do that, aren't you?
I am.
Don't act like you're not
speechless.
I watch it and I love it, and I was so proud of myself until we were down like 24-7.
Yeah.
Okay. Mark Stoops scored more points in that game than he had like of all time.
Oh yeah, a couple years ago.
Yeah. So there was that.
Yeah.
If I was going to whip out my Hard Rock Bet app and bet, I would have bet against you on that. So I'm pretty impressed. So
all right, Brett Hastings.
It's all it takes to break up the parlay too. It's a bummer,
Brett is from the Hastings Injury Law Firm. Again, sports betting technically is only legal with the Seminole folks. I didn't know that. Well done. Thanks. We appreciate it. Back in a moment. This is 1010XL 92.5 FM.